Hello, welcome to my presentation of defining psychological disorders. I am Marshall Cott. There are many different types of psychological disorders, and each has their own subclassification of disorders. The psychological disorders are anxiety disorder, bipolar and related disorders, disruptive impulse control and conduct disorders, dissociative disorders, feeding and eating disorders, neurocognitive disorders, neurodevelopmental disorders, personality disorders, sleep-wake symptom and related disorders, substance-related and addictive disorders, and trauma and stressor-related disorders. Anxiety disorders are disorders that victims of usually have some excessive or abnormal fears, worries, or related behavioral effects. According to Verywell.com's list of disorders, which was last updated June 11, 2016, and reviewed by certified physicians, anxiety disorders affect about 18% of American adults. The subclassifications of anxiety disorder are just generalized anxiety disorders, agoraphobia, social anxiety disorders, specific phobias, panic disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and separation anxiety disorder. Generalized anxiety disorder is like having regular anxiety, only to a more extreme extent. For example, if the anxiety were to interfere with day-to-day life. This can be improved with medications, talk therapy, changing one's lifestyle, learning some coping skills, and using relaxation techniques. An example of a character which displays generalized anxiety disorder would be Chucky Finster from Rugrats. Agoraphobia is the fear in which one would often avoid places or situations that might make them panic or feel trapped, helpless, or even embarrassed. Essentially, people with this disorder fear being in public places. This is a bit of a challenge to treat because it requires that person to overcome their fears. Medication and talk therapy could help sufferers of this disorder face their fear. A very popular example in media with this disorder is Queen Elsa from Frozen. Social anxiety disorder is the disorder when everyday interaction with others cause significant anxiety, fear, self-consciousness, or embarrassment due to the fact that one fears that they are being scrutinized or judged by others. This is a chronic mental health condition but can be treated with psychological counseling, medication, and by learning coping skills to help gain confidence and make interacting with others easier. Shrek, from the self-titled movie Shrek, can be cited as having this disorder. Specific phobias cause the person to feel an overwhelming and unreasonable fear about objects or situations that pose little real danger to them. However, the phobia makes that person anxious and they try to avoid them. Most phobias do not need treatment, however, for those that do, there are several therapies available to help. Indiana Jones has a phobia of snakes, as shown throughout his movies. Panic disorder is a disorder of having multiple, recurrent, and unexpected panic attacks, and as such, one lives in constant fear of another attack. While panic attacks aren't life-threatening, they can significantly affect quality of life. Treatment can be very effective when used. Tony Soprano could have possibly had panic disorder, but he has had panic attacks. Post-traumatic stress disorder is triggered by a specific event, which the victim of either experienced it or witnessed that event. PTSD usually interferes with one's day-to-day functioning. This disorder can be treated with psychotherapy and medication. Wilt, from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, could easily have PTSD. Separation anxiety disorder happens whenever someone has to say goodbye and they get teary-eyed and clingy. This normally is seen in infants and toddlers, which they usually grow out of by 24 months. This disorder rarely needs treatment. Boo from Monsters Inc. could easily be cited as having this disorder. Bipolar and related disorders are characterized by shifts in mood and changes in activity and energy levels. Usually victims suffer mood swings between being emotionally high and emotionally low. This is a lifelong condition, but can be treated with medications and psychological counseling to help manage the disorder. Helga Pataki from Hey Arnold can be said to be suffering from bipolar disorder. Impulse control disorders are signified by being unable to control emotions and behaviors which result in harming oneself or others, usually characterized by violating rights of others such as destroying property or physical aggression. They can also conflict with societal norms, authority figures, and laws. The types of disruptive impulse control and conduct disorders are kleptomania, pyromania, intermittent explosive disorder, conduct disorder, and oppositional defiant disorder. Kleptomania is the recurrent failure to resist the urge to steal items you don't need and usually have little value. Many people who have kleptomania choose to keep it a secret because they are ashamed and afraid to seek help. There is no cure, but as treatment of medication or psychotherapy, the cycle of compulsive stealing may be able to end. Belle, from Beauty and the Beast, could be said to have kleptomania. Pyromania is the pattern of deliberately setting fires for pleasure or satisfaction from the relief of tension experienced before setting the fire. This is an extremely rare disorder, though there are treatments, from learning problem-solving skills and anger management to medication and psychotherapy. Pyro from Team Fortress 2 could be said to have pyromania. Intermittent explosive disorder is the repeated, sudden episodes of impulsive, aggressive, violent behavior or angry verbal outbursts taken to the extreme proportionate to the situation. This is a chronic disorder that can continue for years. Treatment involves medications and psychotherapy to help control impulses. Homer Simpson from The Simpsons has intermittent explosive disorder. Conduct disorder is a behavioral or emotional disorder that can occur in children and teens. Children may display patterns of disruptive and violent behavior and have problems following rules, considered to be a disorder when it is long-lasting and violates the rights of others. A movie with conduct disorder as a backdrop to it would be The Butterfly Effect. Oppositional defiant disorder is defined as having frequent and persistent patterns of anger, irritability, arguing, defiance, and vindictiveness towards parents and other authority figures. Treatment of this disorder involves therapy, trained to help build positive family interactions, and skills to help manage behaviors. Medication could also be used to treat this disorder. Stewie Griffin from Family Guy could be said to have this disorder. Dissociative disorders are disorders that involve a dissociation or interruption in aspects of consciousness. This includes identity and memory. Dissociative disorders include dissociative amnesia, dissociative identity disorder, and depersonalization and derealization disorder. Dissociative amnesia occurs when a person blocks out certain information, whether it be from a stressful or traumatic event or not, and leaves the person unable to recall important personal information. Memory loss goes beyond the normal forgetfulness and usually has long gaps of memory being unable to be recalled. Treatment of this disorder could be psychotherapy, cognitive therapy, family therapy, creative therapies, and clinical hypnosis. Shutter Island has portrayed dissociative amnesia. Dissociative identity disorder is a severe form of dissociation, a mental process which causes a lack of connection in a person's mind, including thoughts, memories, feelings, actions, or even sense of identity. It is thought that the dissociation is a coping mechanism. There is no cure for this disorder. However, there are treatments such as psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, and artistic therapies. There are no medications that can help treat this disorder. Bruce Banner, aka the Incredible Hulk, has dissociative identity disorder. Depersonalization derealization disorder happens when one persistently or repeatedly have out-of-body experiences, or that one has a sense that things around them aren't real, or perhaps even both. People usually have a point at which this happened, but whenever the feelings don't go away or keep occurring, then they are considered to have this disorder. Main treatment for this disorder is psychotherapy, but sometimes medication is also used. Hudson Milbank from Numb displays signs of depersonalization derealization disorder. Feeding and eating disorders are characterized by obsessive concerns about weight and disruptive eating patterns that have an adverse effect on physical and mental health. There are 5 types of eating disorders. They are anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, rumination disorder, pica, and binge eating disorder. Anorexia nervosa is characterized by an abnormally low body weight, a distorted perception of body weight, and an intense fear of gaining weight. People with this disorder generally use extreme measures to control their weight. Anorexia isn't about food, it's actually about an unhealthy way to cope with emotional problems. This can be very difficult to overcome, but with treatment, people can gain a better sense of who they are and return to healthier eating habits, possibly even reverse some of anorexia's serious complications. Casey Ainsworth from Skins has this disorder. Bulimia nervosa is characterized by people secretly binge eating a large amount of food, only to then purge said food to try and get rid of the extra calories. This disorder is related to self-image, not food. This can be difficult to overcome, but with effective treatment, people can start feeling better about themselves and get into a healthier eating pattern, and even reverse serious complications that come with bulimia. Blair Wardwolf from Gossip Girl has bulimia. Rumination disorder is a condition in which people repeatedly and unintentionally regurgitate undigested or partially undigested food from the stomach, re-chew it, then either re-swallow the food or spit it out. This usually happens with every meal within 30 minutes of eating. This condition usually occurs in infants and people with developmental disabilities. This can also occur, but less common in other children, adolescents, and adults. It is not clear how many people have this disorder. This hasn't really been portrayed in pop culture as far as I could tell, so I just put a picture of Jabba the Hutt. Pica is a disorder classified by the persistent eating of substances such as dirt or paint that have no nutritional value. Pica has numerous medical complications that can arise from the disorder, such as lead poisoning. As such, close medical monitoring is necessary throughout the treatment to make sure that no complications arise. Cosmo, from Very Odd Parents, when he was pregnant, could have been seen as him having pica. Binge eating disorder is characterized by someone eating a large amount of food and feel unable to stop eating. That person may be embarrassed about overeating and then vow to stop. However, they feel it's such a compulsion that they just can't resist the urge and continue to binge eat. There is treatment for this disorder. Rachel Ray Earl and My Mad Fat Diary could be cited for having binge eating disorder. Neurocognitive disorders are characterized by acquiring deficits in cognitive function. These do not include those in which the deficits in cognitive function were present at birth or early on in life. There are three types of neurocognitive disorders. They are delirium, major mild neurocognitive disorder due to Alzheimer's disease, and major mild neurocognitive disorder due to Parkinson's disease. Delirium is classified as a serious disturbance in mental abilities that can cause confused thinking and reduced awareness of environment. This disease can set in a matter of hours to a few days. The symptoms of delirium and dementia can be similar, so input from a family member might be important for a doctor to give an accurate diagnosis. Alzheimer's disease is a disease that targets and destroys memory and other important mental functions. To start it off, people may notice mild confusion and some difficulties remembering things. Eventually, the disease could make people forget important people to them, or even change personalities dramatically. There is no cure for the disease, but there are medications and management strategies that could help people maintain their independence a little longer. The Ice King from Adventure Time could possibly be affected by Alzheimer's. Parkinson's disease is a disease that targets the nervous system and affects movement. The disease starts with just barely a noticeable tremor in the hand, but gradually grows more and more. Parkinson's has no cure, but does have treatment. The medications for the treatment may improve symptoms. In occasional cases, a person's doctor may suggest surgery to regulate regions of the person's brain and improve their symptoms. Porky Pig from Looney Tunes could be thought to have Parkinson's. Neurodevelopmental disorders are typically diagnosed during infancy, childhood, or adolescence. There are 6 neurodevelopmental disorders. They are intellectual disability, or intellectual developmental disorder, which is formerly referred to as mental retardation, developmental delay, communications disorders, language disorders, autism spectrum disorder, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Intellectual disability is characterized by below average intelligence or mental ability and a lack of skills needed for day-to-day living. People with this disability can learn, but it takes them longer. This disorder can vary in degree from mild to profound. There are a few ways in which this can be prevented, like not drinking alcohol when pregnant, getting proper care, and taking care of yourself while pregnant. This could also be passed down from genetics. Charlie Gordon from Charlie has intellectual disability. Developmental delays are noticed when the victim of one is a child. The delays are significant lags in one or more areas of growth, whether it be emotional, mental, or physical growth. There is treatment for this disorder though. However, the type of treatment needed depends on which area it is delayed. Boris Gump could have been said as having a developmental delay when younger, and developed into a developmental disability. Communication disorders are disorders that affect a patient's communication abilities. Such abilities could include voice, speech, language, hearing, or cognition. Identification of these disorders early on is vital, else they may result in isolation, depression, or loss of independence. Twist from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic has a lisp, which is a communication disorder. Language disorders are a result from damage to areas of the brain responsible for language comprehension and expression. These type of injuries usually occur in the dominant side of the brain. Treatment of this disorder is based heavily upon the syndrome. Tweety Bird from Looney Tunes has a language disorder. Autism spectrum disorder is commonly characterized by how it impairs patients' abilities to communicate and interact with others. This can include repetitive behaviors, interests, and activities. This can also cause issues when it comes to social, occupational, and other areas of functioning. There is no cure for this disorder. However, early intensive treatment can help make a big difference in the lives of children. Ben Tennyson from Ben 10 could be said to have autism. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, or ADHD, is a condition that causes problems from childhood and usually into adulthood. This disorder has problems such as difficulty sustaining attention, hyperactivity, and impulsive behavior. Treatment cannot cure ADHD, but it can help a great amount with the symptoms. Treatment usually includes medications and behavioral interventions. An early diagnosis can help make a huge difference in outcome. The Minions from Despicable Me could be said to have ADHD. Personality disorders are characterized by maladaptive behaviors through patterns and feelings. These characteristics can cause detriments to relationships in other areas. There are 10 different types of personality disorders. They are antisocial personality disorder, avoidant personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, dependent personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, paranoid personality disorder, schizoid personality disorder, and schizotypical personality disorder. Antisocial personality disorder is occasionally called sociopathy. This disorder is a mental condition in which a person shows no regard for right or wrong and ignores the feelings and rights of others. People with this disorder tend to antagonize, manipulate, or treat others harshly. They tend to show no guilt or remorse for their behaviors. Treatment for this disorder depends on the victim's particular situation and can vary from psychotherapy to medications. Gaston from Beauty and the Beast could be said to have this disorder. Avoidant personality disorder is generally characterized by feelings of extreme social inhibition, inadequacy, and sensitivity to negative criticism and rejection. This disorder causes sufferers of it problems that affect the ability to interact with others and maintain relationships in day-to-day lives. Treatment depends on the person, but generally includes psychotherapy and occasionally medication. Charlie Brown could be seen to have avoidant personality disorder. Borderline personality disorder impacts the way one thinks and feels about themselves and others. This can cause problems functioning in everyday lives, including patterns of unstable, intense relationships, distorted self-image, and extreme emotions and impulsiveness. With this condition, one has intense fear and abandonment, and difficulty tolerating being alone. Treatment includes psychotherapy, medications, and in most extreme cases, hospitalization. Bugs Bunny from Looney Tunes could be said to have borderline personality disorder. Dependent personality disorder is marked by feelings of helplessness, submissiveness, and a need to be taken care of and constant reassurance. It is also marked by being unable to make everyday decisions without excessive amount of advice and reassurance from others. Treatment for this disorder includes psychotherapy and medication. Buster Bluth from Arrested Development could be cited as having this disorder. Histrionic personality disorder is usually marked by people with intense, unstable emotions and distorted self-images. People with this disorder's self-esteem depends on their approval from others and have no real true feelings of self-worth. Treatment for this disorder includes psychotherapy and medication. Scarlett O'Hara from Gone with the Wind could be seen as having this disorder. Narcissistic personality disorder is a disorder in which people have an inflated sense of their own importance. However, they have a deep need for admiration and a lack of empathy for others. They also have a fragile self-esteem that is very vulnerable to the slightest criticism. Treatment for this disorder is centered around psychotherapy. A character that could be seen with the disorder could be Pepe Le Pew from Looney Tunes. Obsessive-compulsive disorder is characterized by patterns of unreasonable thoughts and fears that lead to repetitive behaviors. These patterns interfere with everyday lives and activities and cause significant distress. One may try to ignore or even stop the obsessions, but doing that only increases the distress and anxiety. Treatment can be effective and includes psychotherapy and medications. Howard Hughes from The Aviator could be seen as having obsessive-compulsive disorder. Paranoid personality disorder is a disorder that involves odd or eccentric ways of thinking. Sufferers of this disorder have paranoia when there is no reason to be suspicious of others. Treatment generally includes psychotherapy or medication. However, because trust is needed in psychotherapy, treatment this way is oftentimes very difficult. Flounder from The Little Mermaid could be seen as having this disorder. Schizoid personality disorder is classified as the sufferer avoiding social activities and consistently shying away from interacting with others. Sufferers also have a limited range of emotional expression. People with this disorder generally don't show emotion. Treatment for this disorder is psychotherapy and in some cases medications. Dexter Morgan from Dexter could be seen as an example of this disorder. Schizotypal personality disorders sufferers generally are described as odd or eccentric and have very little, if any, close relationships. They do not understand how relationships impact behavior on others. They may also misinterpret others' behaviors and motivations and start developing major distrust of others. Treatment of this disorder generally involves psychotherapy and medication. Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, could have schizotypal personality disorder. Sleep-wake disorders involve interruptions of the sleep pattern that lead to distress and affect daytime functioning. There are 7 different types of sleep-wake disorders. They are narcolepsy, insomnia disorder, hypersomnolence disorder, breathing-related sleep disorder, parasomnias, nightmare disorder, and restless leg syndrome. Narcolepsy is characterized by overwhelming daytime drowsiness and sudden sleep attacks. People with this disorder often find it difficult to stay awake for long periods of time, and they can suffer serious disruptions in their daily routine. There is no cure for this disorder, but medications and lifestyle changes can help manage the symptoms. Buster from Arthur is a great example of having this disorder. Insomnia disorder is pretty common and makes it difficult to fall asleep, stay asleep, or cause the victim to wake up too early and be able to go back to sleep. They could even feel tired after waking up. Treatment could be just as easy as just changing daily habits. Napoleon Bonaparte could be cited as having this disorder. Hypersomnolence disorder is also known as hypersomnia. This disorder causes one to be extremely drowsy or sleepy during the day, even though they just slept for what should be enough to feel refreshed. Treatment could be as easy as just checking if any of the sufferer's current medicine is causing this disorder. Otherwise, using different medication to stimulate during the day could help, as well as behavioral therapy. Aurora from Sleeping Beauty is an easy example to see that has this disorder. Parasomnias occur during arousals from REM sleep. They include nightmares, night terrors, sleepwalking, confusional arousals. They could also include rhythmic movement disorder, sleep talking, nocturnal leg cramps, sleep paralysis. Parasomnias cover a lot under an umbrella term. As such, there are many different treatments for these disorders. Dory from Finding Dory sleep talks and sleep swims. Nightmare disorder are nightmares that cause a problem, whether they be because they disrupt victims' sleep or makes them afraid to go to sleep. A diagnosis is only given if the nightmares cause ongoing distress or problems with daytime functioning. Treatment for this disorder usually isn't needed. However, if needed, there are medical condition treatments, stress or anxiety treatments, medication, or even imagery rehearsal therapy. There are no notable personalities that suffer from this as far as I could find. Restless leg syndrome is a condition in which the sufferer has uncontrollable urges to move their legs, usually due to leg discomfort. This usually happens during evenings or nights while they are sitting or laying down. Moving eases their feelings temporarily. Treatment options are lifestyle changes and some medications, as well as some simple self-care steps. This was also hard to find online about any characters that could have this condition. Somatic symptoms in related disorders involve prominent physical symptoms that might not have a diagnosable physical cause. These usually mimic medical diseases or injuries and can cause significant impairment and distress. There are 4 disorders that fall under this: somatic symptom disorder, illness anxiety disorder, conversion disorder, and facetious disorder. Somatic symptom disorder involves having a significant focus on physical symptoms, so much so that it causes major emotional distress and problems functioning. Treatment of this disorder is available and can help improve quality of life. They include psychotherapy and medications. This is hard to find a character that could be said to have this disorder. Illness anxiety disorder can be called hypochondria or health anxiety. Victims of this disorder worry excessively that they are, or they will become, seriously ill even though you have no physical symptoms. Alternatively, you may think normal body sensations or minor symptoms are signs of a real illness. Treatments could include psychotherapy or medication. Adolf Hitler was very much a hypochondriac. Conversion disorder, which was also called functional neurological symptom disorder, shows conditions of psychological stress in physical ways. As an example, if one were to fall from a horse, they could think that their leg was paralyzed, even though they weren't actually hurt. Treatments include psychotherapy and occasional physical therapy. The movie Hollywood Ending showcases conversion disorder. Facetious disorder is a disorder in which someone deceives others by appearing sick or by purposely getting sick, or even self-injury. The sufferer may make up symptoms or even tamper with medical tests to convince others that treatment is needed. Treatment for the disorder is very much needed, but very difficult to actually get. Most people with this disorder will avoid seeking help. An example of this character from a TV show that has this disorder could be Discord from My Little Pony in the episode Three's a Crowd. However, he knows the reason for faking his illnesses. Substance-related and addictive disorders are those that involve the abuse of different drugs and alcohol. These can lead to conditions such as intoxication, withdrawal, anxiety, delirium, and even the emergence of psychosis. Some substance-related disorders include alcohol-related disorders, caffeine-related disorders, cannabis-related disorders, inhalant-related disorders, stimulant use disorders, and tobacco use disorders. Trauma and stressor-related disorders involve exposure to a stressful or traumatic event. There are many disorders that could fit into this category. A few of them are acute stress disorder, adjustment disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder, and reactive attachment disorder. Acute stress disorders usually takes place in about a month after a traumatic event. It lasts at least 3 days but can last up to 1 month. Symptoms of this disorder are similar to the ones suffered with post-traumatic stress disorder. Hospitalization can be used as treatment in extreme situations, but usually just some minor medication is enough to help people get through this. 1986 movie Platoon covered acute stress disorder. Adjustment disorder is when people cannot recover well from life changes such as work problems, going away to school, or even an illness. The sufferer continues to feel down and self-destructive. Daily routines could start feeling overwhelming, or one may even make reckless decisions. Treatment for this disorder is usually brief but involves psychotherapy, but can involve medication as well. Lester Burnham from American Beauty suffers from this disorder. Reactive attachment disorder is a rare disorder in which an infant or young child doesn't establish healthy attachments with parents or caregivers. This could develop if the child's basic needs aren't being met. Treatments include positive child and caregiver interactions, a stable nurturing environment, psychological counseling, and parent or caregiving education. The movie Troubled Child showcases reactive attachment disorder. Keep in mind, these in no way are exhaustive. I was just listing a few examples. I've also kept most of these disorders very brief. Thank you for watching.